Good afternoon. It is about just after 4:15 by the time this video processes. Jeremy Green will have a pretty interesting video, educational, includes a few things. The show shows weather forecast, the difference between snow, sleet, freezing rain, and rain, the difference between sleet and hail, the different simple physics for forces and motion, and how nor'easters affect how nor'easters shift the freezing line and the snow difference line. Show of shows is Saturday. Hope you can make it. Atlantic City, 3-hour shows from noon to 3, and from 5 to 8. Should be a very fun time down there. And I'll have a reaction video in March. We'll have some precipitation in the area, depending on the temperature. Most likely will be rain, because the freezing line will be to our north instead of to our south, as it usually has been. The freezing line, the rain-snow line has actually usually been out to sea, and that's because of El Nino as well. It's because of El Nino, which is causing the backward storms, in which I-95 south and east gets most of the snow. I-95 north and west gets the least amount of snow. Well, lately the storms have been the freezing line has been closer to the area. Freezing line, all function of height and temperature. The more cold air it has, the tent become snow. Less cold air, but still enough, causes sleet, which is ice pellets. If it can't freeze, but it freezes, but the surfaces are cold enough, it's freezing rain. And if it doesn't go anywhere, if the warm air is at the surface, then that's how it works. Then it's snow. The freezing rain line can be shifted. There are two lines to look at: the heavy versus light snow, the snow difference line, and the freezing line. The snow difference line has usually been the I-95 corridor, and the freezing rain line has usually been well offshore, which is usually not within 100 miles of the low pressure, within a few miles of the low pressure center. And the shift occurs because of the path of the nor'easter. Directly shifts because of it. There are the difference between sleet and hail is sleet is smaller than hail, because sleet goes downward, but hail is formed by thunderstorms with cold air aloft, and usually caused by three forces. The bigger the stronger the force of the air updraft, and the force of the air resistance, which we call the drag force, and the less the force and the less mass it has, it can go from pea-sized to bowling ball sized. But anyhow, the combination of three forces depends on how fast it's going. Usually we count hail as an initial velocity of 0, so we can easily calculate the time it takes for it to drop down from when all three forces are in equilibrium, which means the force of the updraft plus the air is equal to the force of gravity. If force of gravity is greater, the hail falls, and usually with a stronger updraft, it usually takes takes a lot of mass for that hail to fall. If the force of the updraft in the air resistance exceeds the force of gravity, the hailstone will continue to build until the force of gravity wins and the hail falls. And the only way to do that is when it's up there, water freezes on top of that. And that is the essential difference between sleet and hail. And you now know the difference between snow, sleet, freezing rain, and hail. And you now know how nor'easters affect the precipitation type based on the freezing line and the heavy snow line, and why there is a backwards pattern. And you also heard an advertisement of the show of shows. That's it for now. I'll probably have a report for you tomorrow around 2:30, 2:45 or so, perhaps much later. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the video.